The European Union makes up nearly 3 times as much of Germany's overall GDP than the UK's, bombshell data has revealed. While the UK readies itself to fully leave the EU at the end of this year, new statistics from 2019 show how heavily Germany relies on the bloc in comparison to Britain. Figures from the Office of National Statistics reveal that just 7.7% of the UK's GDP comes from EU goods exports, while Germany's GDP ratios sits at around 22.3%. The statistics expose that the UK only fractionally relies on the bloc for trade, which pales into the horror fears Remainers had that Britain would flop as a result of Brexit. The analysis was detailed by pro-Brexit group Facts4EU, which revealed goods exports to the EU in 2019 worked out at around £170.6 billion of the overall GDP of £2,214.9 billion. Facts4EU say that the figures also show that around 70% of the UK's economy is actually derived from internal activities. David Campbell Bannerman is a former MEP and has experience sitting on EU Parliament's International Trade Committee. Talking to Facts4EU, he said, "Your excellent research shows very strongly that the main driver of our economic wealth isn't the EU, it's our own economy. We're making and selling so much to ourselves. Almost 70%, as you found out, is generated within our own borders, and 86% has nothing to do with the EU. So this argument that we have to do a deal with the EU or we're finished is nonsense." Facts4EU added, "For years the British people have been brainwashed by previous governments, the London establishment, big business, the BBC, and others into believing that exports to the EU provide the lion's share of jobs and wealth. They don't. Not even remotely close. We remember Remainer MPs, mostly Labour, Lib Dem and SNP, but many Conservative MPs too, telling the public that 50% of our exports go to the EU, our jobs depend on the EU, and other such claims. Prior to the referendum and every day since we have tried to counter these falsehoods. The UK is aiming to strike a trade deal with the EU by December 31, after it left the bloc on January 31, 2020.